Yeah.
Welcome, everybody. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The Huerfano County Board of County Commissioners meeting for April 9th, 2024 is now in session. First thing we need is the approval of the agenda.
Pretty good, I don't think it's been less than
Make a motion to accept the amendment.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call for the vote, please.
Commissioner Beata,
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier,
Yes.
Commissioner,
Yes.
motion passes.
Consent agenda, Mr. Young.
Additionally, today I have the meeting minutes from March 26, 2024. I have the docket number 24-11 for John and Diane LaRosa, parcel number 533393146, in the amount of $568.26 from tax year 2023. And I have an abatement numbered 24-12 for liners. For parcel number 1267, in the amount of $140.79 from tax year 2023. Then I have a green sheet for detention officers who have been QMAP certified, meaning they can pass medications to inmates with prescriptions. This is for a bonus for them, as well as a step for when they conduct those activities.
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second that.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion. Call for the vote, please.
Commissioner Dunn,
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier,
Yes.
Timberlake.
Yes. Next is public comment, and first on the list is Ken Clayton. If you would come forward and give your name and address for the record, please.
Clayton, 711 Panadero Loop.
You can lift that up.
Would it be better if I speak because I'm on the agenda later as well?
That's you. It's up to you.
There's several of us during our agenda item. So what would you guys prefer?
I personally would prefer wait until the agenda item.
Works for me. Thank you.
Okay. Kiara Beasley, same,
Say these with us today. If you
Okay.
don't mind.
and Jim Littlefield, same. Okay. Okay. And Orlando Martinez.
Yeah, I'm Orlando Martinez, and we own a farm there in Gardner, but we own that Gardner Hotel there, and it's well, when we bought it from this guy, it's kind of a historical hotel. It's kind of it was in disrepair when we bought it. And then we started to do a lot of work, and we had so much vandalism, and they stole the materials and broke things in it over the years. And anyway, now, you know, I just talked to the building inspector and that, and we do have to have a structural engineer come out and check, but which we know we will do. But I just wanted to see if the county commissioners could give me any more advice or anything on it.
I think Erica had an idea to share with you.
Yeah, I would be happy to schedule a time to meet with you in person. There's a lot of state and federal incentives and funding to get a project like that off the ground. I've gone through some of them personally and worked with a lot of those entities. So I'd be happy to meet with you. I can even come to you in Gardner and we can schedule a time to go over some of those options.
Did you catch that?
Oh, you can get it all.
Okay, so
I'm sorry.
she knows of several programs through the state and federal government that she can guide you toward that would help you get the project off the ground.
Right.
So what she'd like to do is meet with you. If we can get your contact information, then she'll contact you and see if you guys can set up a meeting.
Okay, is that here now or where is it?
She is not available right now, but if you can leave your contact information, we will make sure that she gets that and she'll get a hold of you.
I know she gave me the number of that address of the Heritage Center. Is that what you're?
That's one,
That's one of the possibilities.
but there's several other tax incentives and enterprise zone projects, programs that are available to help with projects like this.
Okay, because there in Gardner, there's only two historical buildings left, the Catholic Church and this one. You know, but we just ran into a lot of problems. I've been out of commission for 6 months. They amputated my toes and I had vein surgery on both legs. So I wasn't able, I'm just barely recovering. But me and my daughter and son, my daughter is in Los Angeles, my son's in Denver. So we'd like to get something done on it.
Okay.
Commissioner DeLucia?
I think Sherry has his information.
Oh, Sherry has it. Okay. So we have your information. We'll make sure that Commissioner Andrietta gets that and you'll be in touch.
And Vashti Thomas Waterman has her hand up.
Make
and
sure
she
who
has
gets
some
it again.
valuable info.
Vashti?
No, you said, who do I have to make sure to give the information to?
The building department, if they have it, then we should be good.
Yeah, well, I have everything. I checked with them, the building department.
Okay, if you can just drop that off with
I'll go with that.
with him.
I'll go with him to make sure we got his information.
Okay.
Yeah, so I already talked to them there, but I'll see what,
Okay, it's for Commissioner Andrea, so we'll get your information.
okay.
Sure.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Orlando. The next item is there anyone else for public comments? Anyone online?
Vashti has her hand raised.
Vashti, please identify give your name and address, please.
Austin, if you're talking, we can't hear you.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry, this is Vashti Thomas Wachterman. I'm in Gardner and I'm one of Orly's neighbors. And I just wanted to let Erica know that I could help them get connected.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is not Orly. Vashti, this is Orlando.
Orlando Martinez, Orly.
Yeah. No, the other, not Orly that lives in Gardner. Orlando lives in 12.
Oh, okay. I can help them get connected here too, in case they need it.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Okay, so now we are doing a hearing on the Gardner Public Improvement District, and as a requirement of the federal government, we need to have everyone that's here signed in, please.
Thank you.
I'm going to turn this public hearing over to Dana. You're up, Dana.
Great. I'm just gonna pull up my PowerPoint. And I was like, do you know how to do screen sharing the best with Google? As far as like making it bigger, so it's my full screen. Because I have full screen here, but it's not showing full screen there.
I would do the share your entire window.
All these different sharing platforms, all these different platforms for. Sorry. Oh, it's hard to say. Thank you. Okay. Sorry, I'm usually using Zoom, and so therefore a little bit different. Okay. Hopefully that's the text. I can always zoom in if we need to, but thanks so much for having me. My name is Dana Trinker, and I'm with GMS Consulting Engineers, and I'm here to present the wastewater system improvements project. As Commissioner Galusha said, it's required for the funding. In order to receive funding, you need to have public hearings. So specifically, this is for the Water Pollution Control Revolving Fund, is what the purpose of this hearing. All right, the need for the project, we completed a preliminary engineering report and also video inspections that were conducted, including surveying, and it helped determine the deficiencies. What was wrong with the pipe? What's wrong with the manholes in order to figure out how to best identify a project. And what was discovered is about 2,700 lineal feet of sewer main is back pitched. And so what that means is it's instead of flowing downhill, it's flowing uphill, which sewer doesn't go uphill. So, and also there was meeting less than minimum slope. So the minimum slope for a sewer line is relatively like 0.4%. And we have areas where it's flatter than 0.4%. And then the pipeline sags, there's also pipeline sags, which causes hydrogen sulfide, because basically what ends up is like a belly, and then the wastewater sits in that belly, causing the gas to then be created instead of just moving through, which then deteriorates the system. And specifically, it deteriorates manholes. So in the project, we have the replacement of about 2,500 feet of existing pipe, replacing 10 manholes, 2 new 4-foot manholes, and then the installation. One of the other components that came up in the midst of the project was the wastewater treatment facility effluent pipe extension, which is required because of discharge permit. So when you have a wastewater plant, it's a discharge permit, which basically means out of the wastewater plant, it is the water is going somewhere, and it has to meet certain requirements. And they changed the requirements at the state level Previously, what we have a general permit for Gardner, which means it's not like very specific to your location. But because of the general permit, one of the things you can have is a dilution factor, which allows I don't know if you've heard this phrase, but the solution to dilution is pollution. I mean, the solution to pollution is dilution. So you dilute something and it gets rid of pollution. So you can kind of think that even in the air quality, if you dilute it with clean air, you get cleaner air. So same with wastewater. If you have a stream receiving it, then you can, the larger the stream, the more dilution factor that you get. And so in this case right now, the discharge is going into a wetland instead of into Huerfano River. And the state has decided that that doesn't meet the requirements. And so now we need the discharge to go right into the river. It's a little bit, doesn't make a lot of sense to the average person, but it's a person reading the regulations at the state level that says you can't get your dilution ratio because you're not actually discharging into a river, moving body of water. So that's something that is included in the project as well. And honestly, that's what's taken a lot of time in this project, because we also had to do additional calculations on the chlorination and how are we disinfecting the wastewater and what chemicals are you using. And so that has taken more time. The basic collection system project is very simple, but this added component has added a lot of time. So the project itself, when we initially were looking, and I'm sorry that it's a little small, but at least we have some colors, and colors are always good in my mind. So we have a couple different, you can see here, you can see the red and the blue, and the red and the blue is really that full segment for what we identified. There was actually an additional little segment that's just north of the blue that was also identified in our priority 1 out of our report. Well, as time has gone on, some different funding sources have come up, and even a potential low-income housing is a potential in Gardner. So now all of a sudden we have extra money, but we also have the rising costs of infrastructure. We are seeing things settle out, which is good, but pre-COVID, probably since like 2019, we would say that construction has 5 times. So not 5%, multiplied by 5 is what we see. So we used to be able to install sewer line for like $30 a foot. Now we're looking at $150 a foot. So I don't know how we're going to deal with that in the future, but we have to think creatively. So I've had a lot of conversations with Carl about how are we going to fund this, because that's the bottom line. Everybody wants to know is how much is it going to cost us. I mean, as long as the sewer system's working, nobody knows about sewer. Just like as long as your water, you can turn it on. Nobody's thinking about it. But with wastewater, it's just expensive. So on anything with infrastructure. So we have 3 options that we have come up with. And the first option is the red one. Blue is option 2, and then option 3 is that green segment that's there. And I have some text there, but I'll go into it separately since I know we can't really read that. So option 1, again, I apologize that this is so small. I wonder if I can, oh, look at that. So I can make it a little bit bigger, which is good. So option 1, like I said, is really the easternmost part of the system. And you'll see kind of similar things for each of these sewer segments. So you have mobilization, you have this remove and replacement of sanitary sewer main. We have those divided by segments, new manholes, service line reconnection, bypass pumping, casing pipe where required, and then also asphalt removal and replacement. A big cost item is CDOT traffic control, since it is Highway 69. That's expensive. And then you can see below here is that outfall extension, like we spoke about, to extend the discharge into the river itself. So option 1 is estimated at $1.27 million. Sorry. Okay. And then option 2 is that further upstream, similar components again with this one, and we have the various segments being replaced. Again, manholes, service line connections, also a steel casing. And that one, including all the engineering, is 1.239. So they're pretty equally divided. And then option 3 is the segment that goes from the wastewater treatment facility westward to, I'm not sure what the county road name is, but up north, extends all the way west to where that new housing development comes in. And that's $500,000. And I'm going to get into why that matters next. As we look at proposed funding scenarios, I'm just going to zoom in again so that we can see this a little bit better. Option 1, let me just go through all your various, sorry. I'm going to zoom out so you guys can see. There's lots of acronyms, and I'll resist talking in acronyms. And if anybody has any questions, please stop me. So the project cost is 1.27 for option 1, and then the combined of 1 and 2 is 2.3. The one grant that you have is through the Department of Local Affairs, the Community Development Block Grant. We have that down. You guys got awarded $452,000. We're hoping that's actually going to get increased to $600,000. There's a little bit of extra money in the pot, and I'm advocating, your regional manager is advocating, but right now we can't assume that, so it's set at the 452. The next line is the Water Pollution Control Revolving Fund. So again, the purpose of this is because of the Water Pollution Control Revolving Fund. They have something that's called a Disadvantaged Community Design and Engineering Grant, and that allows all of the design services to be paid for through the program. There's also the Huerfano County American Rescue Plan Act, as we call it, ARPA, and the county has graciously designated $250,000 towards this project. Then the next one is congressional directed spending. So for those of you that are familiar with the earmarks in Washington, they've brought back earmarks a couple of years ago or 3 years ago, and the county was selected last fall, I believe, is when you first got notice. And then just recently with the approval of the budget, it was appropriated, the funds were appropriated of $500,000. Then there's also the Energy and Mineral Impact Assistance Fund, which is a special set aside called More Housing Now, and that's through the Department of Local Affairs as well. And that's specifically for infrastructure for housing, low income housing developments. And Carl has had conversations with Tara Marshall, the regional manager, and she's favorable towards it. Typically in projects, we can't combine two separate Department of Local Affairs funds to make a project. And I'm going to explain why that is important in a bit here. But we can't mingle the community development block grant with the Energy and Mineral Impact Assistance Fund. So they have to be in separate projects. And then the last component is the Water Pollution Control Revolving Fund Principal Forgiveness and loans. So the way that this works is you put in a loan application and you would get 50% principal forgiveness. And this is like once in a lifetime money right now. So the bipartisan infrastructure law that was passed in November of 21, that money is for wastewater and water. But it's harder to have grant money for wastewater. It's just not the general, the authorities don't have as high value for wastewater. So this is once in a lifetime that this money is available. And I'm always about, I'm and others in my office and Carl, we're always talking about how can we make things more affordable and how can we make a project affordable? So it's kind of scheming of how do we make the funds work? And the idea with this is that we apply the ARPA funds post-project and we pay off part of the loan instead of applying it at the beginning, because otherwise we lose out on $125,000 a grant. And the way we can justify that is that this is once in a lifetime money. It's not like you were sitting around with $250,000 at the county level to give towards a wastewater plant all the time. So I've had conversations on other projects, and they have other kind of once in a lifetime money that is similar to this, or for other reasons they have once in a lifetime money. And this, so I know that we can do it, but it is kind of a funding scheme, you could say. But the idea, so that's typically it's 50%. So if you're looking at these numbers, you can see that it's 200,000, 217,000 is the principal forgiveness, and so and then the loan is 92. So they should match. Like when you go in, you're going in, they would match, and then you would pay off $125,000 to get that down to 92. Does that generally make sense? Okay. So the finance, I know it's kind of financing schemes. So that would make your annual debt service for option one, $3,831. The current operation and maintenance expense, which is the cost per customer per month to operate your system, is $26.81. The new debt service would be $4.56 with another 46 cents for they require 10% more to basically build your reserves. And then your average needed bill would be your O&M plus this new debt service, which would be $31.83. The current average revenue is $31 per customer, so it would have a very slight increase of 83 cents. Now, if we do combine 1 and 2, the kind of interesting thing here is that we kind of show all these funding sources together, and we would still be applying the ARPA money to the back end of the loan. So then the loan ends up becoming $269, and that would carry your debt service to $11,201, and then causing the rate increase to be about $10.50. So one of the things that's, so this kind of looks at a big picture, but in reality, it's not going to be one project because we can't commingle some of this money. And so what we have to do is we have to end up making this 3 projects. And so when we go back to this other picture, the green ends up becoming one project so that we can have the More Housing Now money, and I would also have the water pollution control revolving funds. Maybe some ARPA money, but we really need we need the ARPA money to always be in a project that has the loan in it. So it could potentially be in there as well. But then the second project would be the loan plus the community development block grant plus ARPA. So we have to separate those 2 DOLA projects. And the way that we would do that is we would, when we go to bid, they would have 2 different contracts, but we would have overlapping segments. And so depending on like, okay, we have this much money for this part, and we have this much money for this, then we would kind of figure out, like after bidding, what segments go into which project to make sure that we utilize all the money. And same on the west end, we would bid out as far as we can on the west side, probably knowing that we wouldn't award the whole thing. I advise that the congressional directed spending be kept out of the project with the loan. This is just a summary here that the More Housing Now can't be with community development block grant. This is like what if, I was trying to figure out, those like little equations where you're like, okay, this can go with this, but this can't be here. This is kind of like a game of that, but with money, with real money. But congressional directed spending is not advised to be with the loan. And the reason being is that the congressional directed spending, the earmarks, the way they have decided in Washington to deal with this money is they said, okay, EPA, we are going to take out of the state revolving funds. So we're going to give you all this money to your constituents, to direct grants to your constituents, but we are going to reduce the state revolving fund. So the water pollution control revolving fund is now 1/3 of what it used to be, because of these congressional directed spending. And I'm not a huge, I think last year when you guys, I think we assisted with this, but I think we put in 2 or 3. The previous year we helped communities like 18 of them. And then when I found out it hurts the state revolving funds, it's a much better program to receive money through. And so I'm concerned the health department or the state revolving fund, the way they've dealt with some of this principal forgiveness is they've made it the board's decision to choose who's getting principal forgiveness. And so if they see congressional directed spending inside your project as one of the things, they can say, well, you already got our money. You already got the principal forgiveness through the congressional directed spending. We are going to choose not to give it to you. And the board has that discretion to do that. And I don't know, I talked to the people in the people working in the system in the state revolving fund, like, oh, well, that may not happen. Like, you know, we recognize that it could happen or it might not, but I don't like to leave $500,000 potentially sitting on the table or that you don't get it because of your congressional directed spending. So that's just something, my advice. Obviously, you need to choose. That is not my, it's just my advice, not my decision for you. So, and also, the other funding scheme is the ARPA money. We need to utilize that to pay down the loan. So we don't want the ARPA money to be with the congressional directed spending money because we need it to do our funding scheme on the loan. So does that make sense? Good. I'm glad. Thank you for nodding. It's a little complicated. The other piece is the CDS money. You just got awarded that, or you just got appropriated that money. I don't know how long it's going to take to get that into play. So it may be another year before you have all the approvals through EPA. That's kind of one of the things we hear about CDS, congressional directed spending money, is that you're getting a federal grant. And so you have to go through the federal grant process to access those funds. So the downside of this is that it will be additional contract administration costs because you're going to have 3 separate contracts. You're bidding at 3 separate times, but in order to utilize all the money, that's what you need to do. If for some reason you don't get the impact More Housing Now money, then that would simplify it, and it would only be 2 different projects. So, but that is an additional cost because each project, each funding source has a different requirement on what has to be in part of the project. So some of it requires American Iron and Steel, and now there's a new one it'll be with your CDS. It's called BABA, which is Build America, Buy America. Every manufactured product has to be from America, which isn't really a big deal for your project because of the type of materials we're seeing, but it can add cost, and it also impacts the bidding documents is the bigger issue, why it has to be bid separately. And really, ultimately, we just need to know what the loan application amount should be, and then we're just going to kind of play. We're going to have to like figure out what that money really brings us, and it'll be a little bit play as we go, and try to get as far west as we can, but start on the eastern end and then move west, and put as much flexibility in the bidding process to maximize funds and to accomplish as much as we can. So that's the goal, and that's where we'll need direction from the commissioners on what that actual loan amount that you would like to pursue. The environmental impacts, the short-term construction will be dust generation, construction noise, road closures, potential increase in erosion, and the ground surface disruption. The construction activities will incorporate appropriate best management practices to mitigate any potential of erosion or sedimentation. There are no other environmental impacts identified at this time, and we actually have environmental clearances forthcoming. We'll have that in the next month. We're right now in the process of some waiting periods, public waiting periods on the environmental side. So that's the environmental impacts. Our project schedule, we just submitted the process design report in April. just this week. That was, or last week, actually. The loan application submissions in June, we've been kind of waiting for June. They actually ran out of money because of these congressional directed spending. They ran out of money, and they actually ran out of the bipartisan infrastructure law money, which gives that principal forgiveness. And they were saying, well, we have to wait. So just like the congressional directed spending has to be appropriated from Washington, same with this bipartisan infrastructure law money just got appropriated. So they're saying the first available opportunity for that grant is in June. So we'll be submitting in June. The loan approval will come in August, and then we could advertise as early as October with a project award in November, and then really do construction next year. What could impact this schedule is if we incorporate the More Housing Now, that grant application, Carl, that follows the regular impact, right? So that would be an August application cycle, and that would get approved in November. And so that would then be, we wouldn't be able to award anything until that grant is executed. So that would probably be the beginning of the year. And then obviously the CDS money, it would be really great to bid them all at the same time and get like the same contractor in there. But it's just, we'll just see how it all plays. So we'll do our best to try to get the CDS money going as quickly as possible. But again, recommend that those are separated from the water pollution control revolving fund. That's all I have. Are there any questions?
Did you say on the price of the per foot, it went up to 150 a
Mhm.
foot? Okay. That's what I'm
Yeah.
wondering.
It was used to be 30.
Yeah.
We have it as 120 here, but I've seen it bid as high as 150 too. So yeah, considering it used to be 30. Yeah, when they say like inflation is, I mean, it's not just like by 50, 30%. It's tripling and doubling and quadrupling. So
Commissioner Andrietta, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. Thank you for the very thorough presentation.
I can understand.
I didn't understand either.
I appreciate it. Do you have any questions?
I said thank you very much for the thorough presentation. I don't have any questions at this time.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for your diligence on this. That's been a long-term project, and I admire the way you juggle money.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one is going to be challenging. I had to bring Jason to my office yesterday and be like, okay, just make sure that I'm thinking about this right, because it's going to be complicated. But I mean, I think we want to serve you the best possible. So if it's worth like, okay, we're just going to have to do this way and it'll work. But it's going to, and how all the segments and the actual cost per segment or per project is going to vary. So, I mean, you'll have a set amount of money and we'll make sure it fits under there, but I'm not sure quite how far west we're going to get.
So if we do the full combination project, that would increase the rate to each house by about $10.50, correct?
Mhm.
But that leaves them with pretty much a brand new sewer treatment or sewer collection system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely taking care of the most critical segments for the community.
Okay. So that services all of the debt. Is there any potential that debt service number would reduce?
I mean, only if we could somehow figure out how to pay off the loan even further, but that's putting the $250,000 towards. And the only other way is again, because this is going to be pretty flexible as far as we're going to have these different segments, we could reduce that loan amount. We could reduce it by $100,000 and, just take $100,000 out of the project and then reduce the debt, by that amount. And maybe what I could provide for you is what that would look like. Okay, like here's the loan application amount, and how, if you're putting $250,000 to pay off the loan at the end of the project, or I should say pay down the loan at the end of the project, what that would look like so that you can see more of a range. It's a little bit funny that typically we're not going in and saying we're not really sure what we're going to fully accomplish with it. But in this case, because of all the funding sources, it's a little bit more flexible than typical, and it's a project that can be phased. And so, and the fact that we're doing CDS at the end, so there's just a lot of complications with it. But you guys can say, well, I'd rather it be $8. I want to see our annual payment loan be this amount. Then we just kind of work backwards and we say, okay, well, that's how much money. Now we have $2 million in the project, and we'll figure out how to make $2 million get it as far as we can.
And the next question is, so you projected the construction schedule to begin in 2025, and does that include inflation above today's construction costs?
Yeah, we do elevate them, and then we also have a project contingency in here, and I think, we have it at 15%. We could increase that to 20. It is a bit elevated, but we are seeing it like stabilize, but then like we just had a sanitary sewer project get bid, and it's really strange how the costs are playing out when it's being bid. Like one contractor had, and it's a different kind of casing pipe than it's under a railroad and a highway together. So we have to jack and bore it across. But one contractor had it at $2,000 a foot, and then another contractor had it at like $1,500. Well, $500 a foot when you're talking about 700 feet is a big price difference. And then the other one had their installation on sanitary sewer was like a lot more. So it's just like, even just like where the costs are falling is still a little bit mysterious. So, but we are seeing it stabilize. And it's not doing the jumps it was in the like 2 years ago.
So at this point, if we went with options 1 and 2 combined, the maximum rate increase would be the $10.48. If the bids came in lower and we were able to combine contractors and get rid of one mob, we may be able to drop that $1, $2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I can, like I said, I can do a table just to see like, okay, if you put in this loan amount, just so that you as commissioners can, but yeah, it's probably something like that where, right now this request would be about $1 million loan request with, $520,000 being principal forgiveness. So I would say, so I'm just looking at these numbers. Yeah, probably. Yeah, if it got reduced, then we reduce what you can do is you can deobligate your loan and say, we want to deobligate some of this as well because we haven't used it.
Okay. Very good. Any other questions by the commissioners? Anything from staff?
So thanks again, Dan. The one thing that keeps coming to my head is that more housing now, how we can use it, how we can utilize that to get things to pay for this down, because it's a 25% match. So let's.
Yeah, maybe we could potentially put more. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No. I think we should talk to Tara probably in the next couple months and see what she thinks we can get away with. So I think they are going to have more of that money available. So I think we should just keep working on this while we keep being closer and closer to moving, God forbid. And I think in the worst case, if we push construction to start instead of in January, started in say May, how bad would that hurt us?
I mean, I don't think I don't think it would hurt you that much. I think one of the other issues we face on the construction side is this contractors being busy. So we had a project that we bid and only one contractor bid it and it was too high. Basically, they're like, we don't need the work. And if you want to pay us twice the amount, sure, we'll figure out how to put in our system, in our schedule. And so that's the other piece that's So if just the timing, if we don't get very many bids, then we're like, okay, how we've dealt with that is said, okay, well, our timing is flexible. So can you rebid it? So that's what we did with this other project. We had it rebid. And then we said, okay, it can go the next spring, but those bid prices held. And so we can work with contractors too. If it's like, we don't have time to do this, then we get their price locked in, but then the work happens later. But I do think one of the things when I figured out that money, Carl, just so that you're aware, is the impact will only cover construction. So I basically added like the construction observation and then the construction amount, and then took 50%. So I didn't do the 25%. So that could be extra money that would be put in there. So it's going to be very fluid. Is the bottom line of all this.
Is there any questions from the public? Mr. Littlefield, if you could stand up and just say your name, I
Jim
will.
Littlefield, 58 Cedar Ridge. Sure. Just a question. Is there a special district in Gardner that you work with on this, or is the county taking this all on themselves?
The question was, is there a special district in Gardner? The answer is that there used to be a water and sewer district in Gardner that has been dissolved, and the county created a public improvement district through the county to operate the Gardner water and sewer system. We have a meeting a week from tomorrow in Gardner for several things, just to discuss this project for one of them. But another piece of that meeting will be to discuss the creation or reestablishment of a public improvement district for Gardner.
Correct. Obviously, Walsenburg handles their own, Kitchener Sanitation Water handles their own, Avita handles their own. Local representation is important. Now you're talking about rates. I'm saying this come across the whole county in terms of, is it unique to those that benefit?
So the reason that county ended up with this system was because the system was in failure and the fines were mounting daily through the Colorado State Health Department. So the county had to step in or shut down Gardner completely. So that's why we're in the business. We don't want it.
Yeah, and you're right. Like these are only for the users there. So it's not like this cost goes across the whole county.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
what I was getting to the question.
So just
Where the benefits go, the cost should go.
yeah. So just like in Kuchara, that you guys have a system and it's only your projects that happen are only going to be you're only going to pay for, even though it is facilitated by the county. The public improvement district is kind of like an enterprise or like a function of the county, but it's the wastewater system. So yes, nobody else in the county is going to bear the cost.
Thanks for clarifying.
Yes, thank you. Any other questions from the public? Anything that you would add, Dana, in closing?
The only one thing, the other one thing that I didn't read this on is just that not only with the separate contracts, but it could potentially increase construction observation costs as well. Because when we estimate those costs, it's like for the whole thing to be done at once. So those are, I just want to clarify, like that potentially would have higher contract administration and then construction observation, but we will cross that bridge when we come to it. So especially the fluid requirements of this project. So, but I look forward to enjoy working with Carl and with your team to make this a successful project.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thanks for great presentation. Thanks for taking the time to come down.
Yes, my pleasure.
And we will end that public hearing. Next item is land use, Mr. Young.
Nothing in land use.
Action items.
All right.
Just looking at the sign-in sheet. I just need to make sure that and I can scan that, Carl, if you want.
Yeah, and I'll send you the delivery list as well.
Okay. Thank you.
So Commissioners, first I have for you a resolution numbered 24-20. A resolution amending section 7 of the land use code on matters of activity of state interest for the unincorporated areas of Huerfano County.
Can you give a little bit more detail on that, please?
So these regulations cover a series of areas and activities, things like water, wastewater, settlement, some location of settlements, things like that, that the state has deemed a matter of state interest, and given local governments a say-so in the approval of, or an official role in the approval of these area and activities of state interest. Local governments get to pick what those area of activities that they care about are, unless the state has established an existing statute, and gets to define a process for how the local government examines and reviews these area activities of state interest. These are typically major projects, utility scale power, locating a new settlement in the county, not just a subdivision, but forming a new town out of nothing, moving water. All those kinds of things are areas and activities of state interest that Huerfano County can and has designated things that if they happen, we want to be engaged in that more than our typical land use process.
So these are generally considered the 1041, the areas of state interest, and what generally was addressed in this update.
So this update, one updates the actual areas of activities that are listed to include settlements clearly and presently. It also streamlined processes and updated the definitions to remove some ambiguity and to clarify the areas in which the regulations apply. We did change the fee to $5,000 per application, which is also the same fee you find in Pueblo. So yeah, that's a pretty decent explanation of
Okay.
changes.
Dale, did you want to add anything or just?
Getting past.
Thank you. Comments, questions?
We did spend a lot of time on that planning.
Thank you for that. Any questions? Pardon?
Ryan Geese has a question.
Ryan, anything for the record?
Oh, there we go. Sorry, I'm on my phone, so I was having a hard time with the mute button. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. One of the things that's listed in here is the new floodplain map. Is that floodplain map available yet, or still under development?
The floodplain map that these regulations apply to is basically whichever one is the most current. So the one you're talking about is still in development. We're waiting for that from CWDC. But once we have that, it'll be made available and will be applicable to these regulations.
Okay, where is that found currently? I couldn't understand that.
They are found somewhere in CWDC, Colorado Water.
Oh, DC, dog cat, DC. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
We haven't gotten the
Okay.
final copy of those yet, so we don't have them to share with anybody.
Okay.
The current flood maps are available on FEMA. They're not exactly readable for the county because of how large it is. Like the ones for the city and town are much more readable. But we have a nice book that exists in our land use office that can show you where anyone from the public that has a question, so where the floodplains are in their area.
Thank you. My follow-up question is: would any of these revisions been applicable to the Badito Ranch redevelopment planning that's happening out there? Is that kind of what this area of state interest would include?
No, not as far as what the county is talking about. Well, I want to be clear here. The county isn't exactly. County has to go through the same motions, but we are exactly held to these regulations. We're the ones that are promulgating them. So we have to put together all the information like the regulations say, but we don't have to actually go through the same process. The detail stuff, when it gets time to deal with the water, like I said, we'll have to go through that then, but everything else there, the park or anything else that's contemplated there, doesn't rise to the level of meeting the regulations in the general purpose. The only portion that would is the water portion.
Cool. Thanks, Carl. Appreciate it.
Any other questions? What's the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion to accept the resolution to update the code 24-20.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Please call for the vote.
Commissioner Judd,
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier,
Yes.
Chairman Lucia.
Yes, and I want to thank staff and the planning commission. Good work.
Thank you. Motion passes. Commissioners, next I have for you a draft amendment to the agreement to operate the transfer station and provide waste disposal services between the county and Mountain Disposal. I have not heard back from Mountain Disposal on this contract yet, so what I'm asking is your approval of this version of the agreement to, if they have any changes, we'll bring those back to you before we sign anything. But if they agree to this as is, we can go ahead and execute it. Does two things. First, it reserves a portion of the waste transfer station for the county's use. And second, it allows us to, as the Mountain Disposal has requested for us to keep the utilities in our name, and we pay the utilities and they reimburse us. It sets up a process for that where we ask them for a deposit, we invoice them monthly, they pay us monthly, and at the end of this agreement, the deposit goes back to them, minus anything that is left unpaid.
I would make a motion to approve the First Amendment to the agreement to operate trash transfer station and provide waste disposal services dated April 9th, 2024.
I second that.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. We know that we still have to work on something for Gardner, but that's not in this.
Yeah, my understanding is that DC is no longer in Gardner, at least I don't know if it's temporary or what, but I've asked who's on the board of DFO so we can work with them to come up with a plan.
I have a motion and a second. Call for a vote, please.
Commissioner Judd,
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier,
Yes.
Chairman Lucia.
Yes.
Motion passes. Commissioners, next I have for you a agreement to extend our operating agreement with the Panama Corporation. I have not heard back from them yet, but I see Cliff Higgins here, so maybe we'll hear about it now.
Ken Clayton, 711 Panadero Loop.
Thank you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. As stated, Mr. Young did send us an extension to the MOU. I received that the other day, shared it with our board members. We do have a couple comments. And what I'd like to do is walk through those comments. And then if allowed, we'd like to ask a couple questions on the status of the transfer. First of all, our main disagreement with the MOU is the term. As Carl's put in the email that he sent to me, it's a one-year term, and he expects the transfer to happen before that would expire. Our comment to that is, if we expect the transfer to happen in that term, and we are already set to engage in a long-term agreement with the CF, we would like the county to extend it to a 10-year term. And again, we don't have to decide that today. I know timing is of the essence because our MOU does expire the first of next month, but we're willing to work with Carl to get us to where we need to be. So that would be the first objection to the new MOU. Secondly is the way it is written that we have to have advice from the state tramway safety board. It's written in a way that we cannot, or actually let me rephrase that, they will not give us legal advice on how to operate that. That is the purpose of the ANSI codes that go along with their regulation. It was written in the first or the last MOU like that as well, but we knew we weren't going to operate the lift this year or this last season because everyone we needed to get up to help us make those repairs and go for the certification was already booked out for the year. So the way it's written was either negligent or intentional, that we either, no one here knew, and I'm going to blame the past county attorney. She did not know that the state tramway safety board is in no position to give us any advice. All they can do is test us. And when they come and do that inspection, test our records and get a bio from the people that we have hired to do that work. So they can't give us advice. They won't give us advice. And so the way it's written, we cannot do the work on that lift. We are all on board with giving you guys 72 hours notice. We're all on board on getting direction from the engineers. We've already engaged to help do those repairs back in September. We're all on board with getting Roost Alpine Services to give us direction and guidance. But the way it's written with the tramway board, we can't go forward. So we would like to work with Carl or you to get us to a position to where we can do those repairs. And then get the board or the tramway board down to run us through an inspection. There are a couple items on maintenance that are not defined. We would like to just sit down with Carl, and maintenance items for a ski area are completely different than maintenance items for a general park, and want to make sure we all understand clearly what those maintenance items are. And then there's one about access to the county, or access for the county, and you can't be held responsible for any access that, for any actions that deny access for us or the public through the entrance to the park. And again, we don't consider these major objections. We just want to work together to get to where we need to be. But the big one is the term of the MOU. I'm here representing PSC, but I also have TR Beasley online with the CF. We've talked to everyone on the CF. We are aligned at the hip on what we envision the park to be and the way we want it to go. So again, that's where we stand on the MOU. And I'm welcome any comments.
Commissioners? I'll hold mine. Mr. Young?
Can give me that last one again?
Yeah, I believe it's 9E. And I don't have my PC. I've just got my phone.
90.
9E, the counties, yeah.
Okay.
We don't consider that major, but we just want to define it, you know.
Yeah, I think I see why you have concern with that. Absolutely.
Okay.
Commissioner, I've got no real concerns about 2, 3, or 4. I don't have a real concern about 1. So yeah, so it's whatever you guys.
So as far as the term, because we are in flux on how we're going to do this transfer, or in fact, who we're going to transfer it to, because just that I heard a rumor, and it's all it is a rumor.
We've heard that.
That there's a potential that the state may be interested in creating a state park with it. I don't know if there's any validity to that. So instead of passing this as a one-year agreement, what if we just right now, until things gel a little better, did a 3-month extension, and that may give everything an opportunity for everything to follow.
With all due respect, that puts PSC in a position where we can't plan ahead, we can't hire, we can't schedule maintenance for the following summer. I mean, we have advanced the grant to the level to where we're preparing and giving them budgets now, but we won't be able to spend that money until the end of this summer and into the following year, which is going to be past the term of the 1-year extension. So we're kind of at a standstill until this is figured out. And we're, again, and there's no blame here, but we're in the same position we were last April with the unknown. We can't fundraise based on, I don't want to go take your money, not knowing that I can't spend it for what you're giving it to me for. That kind of thing. I mean, I don't feel good about fundraising. We can't commit to it with the state and the grant. So that's our concern.
Okay.
I mean, can we talk about the transfer as well? Can we segue into that? I know you can't answer any specific questions, but we also heard that rumor that the state is interested in this. And we've reached out to everyone we know at the state level. A call was placed to Max Bazzani, as he used to run the state parks, and he knew nothing about it. At the state level, they know nothing about it, and they've told us that they have no desire to run 58 parks. But I'll tell you, when we heard that rumor, it made the Panhandle Ski Corp and the Kuchera Foundation come together as one. And we actually went on a search for documents about this agreement that was struck back in December of 2016. I, for one, have been getting the runaround since September when we first entered into this discussion by a former board member who had offered me limited information, but we now have found all the documents we thought existed regarding this transfer. And I believe in February, you get to hire Schultz Law Firm as consultant work. Well, back in the day, after this was developed, they actually did an opinion on the agreement that the Kuchera Foundation and Max worked together with. And his opinion clearly states that it should go back to the Kuchera Foundation, and they have two options: to take it back or to let you guys sell it and then pay them the $150,000. PSC, in conjunction with, or with the permission of the CF, also had our attorneys view the document, and I have a copy of it if you don't have it.
I have it.
Okay. I didn't. You know, this is the recorded version.
Do you have the legal opinion as well? Oh, this is the deed.
Now, the deed, I can forward you that as well if you need it, but I'm assuming you have it.
That's it.
You have it.
I got it.
And if you can send me all the documents you're able to find. I mean,
Yes.
I have the deed.
So this combined with the deed is what we have from the original agreement.
Okay. So
And the way both of these attorneys read it is that once the county has decided, and that's last paragraph, in the event the buyer is unwilling or unable to retain the property for public use in the future, which our attorney agrees that by 2 of the 3 votes you guys have to advance the paperwork to get it done, that a judge is going to say that constitutes an unwilling to retain or use or keep that property. And it goes on to say that it should be decided by the Kuchera Foundation what happens to it next, not the county commissioners. We've reached out to all the original donors that we can still reach, and there's not our donors at PSC, but the ones who founded Kuchera Foundation's efforts to do this, and they back us. You know, everyone we've talked to 100% with getting this back to the Kuchera Foundation. And so we just for the record, Kuchera Foundation and the PSC and TR Beasley can back me up. He's online from the Kuchera Foundation. We object to it going to the state for a state park, 100%. We don't feel that you guys have the legal right, and we've had an attorney tell us that. So
I have a couple questions. So I'm interested to see, you've talked about the attorney's opinion. Can you provide a copy of it?
I can get you ours, yes. I'll give that to you.
I want to make sure I understand the statement you just made there, because it seems to be a big deal. You just say that because of the actions the commissioners have already taken, Kuchera Foundation feels they can take the park from the county now.
Now, because of the actions that the commissioners took, they took 3 votes. The first one was tabled. The second one was to prepare the documents to make the transfer. And I believe the second vote or the third vote was to advance the documents to make the transfer. We believe that because of the agreement, it now engages the Kuchera Foundation with the commissioners, but the Kuchera Foundation has a say in the matter now.
So I just want to clarify, the motions the commissioners made and was delivered upon was to come up with terms of deed restrictions. Nothing was asked to create documents of any kind.
Well,
No promises have been made.
we haven't found the meetings minutes for the last vote, but according to the first one, you're correct. But we believe that there was some mention of that second one as well.
I mean, we sort of do this for a living here.
I know you do. And you're correct that we are just getting used to this, but this is not a threat. This is just what we found. And we believe that, you know, the Kuchara Foundation has a say in the matter now.
So you're saying the matter is really just about the transfer to the state and not necessarily about county decides to keep it. You're not saying that Kuchara Foundation would say, no, we want it back. You need to give it back to us or we're going to take it to court.
I think we would have to ask all the lawyers. But the way it reads to me as not a lawyer, it sounds like it now has to be consulted. The Kuchara Foundation now has to be consulted.
Okay, I'm a little bit concerned about this, about where this is. So I'm going to ask you again because what I'm concerned that you're saying is that if the county commissioners decide we're going to keep the park, let it transfer over, that the Kuchara Foundation believes that they have a legal right to then sue the county and take the park.
TR, would you like to? TR's online. TR Beasley. I'm here representing both, but let's see what the Kuchara Foundation has to say.
Hey, good morning, TR Beasley, treasurer for the Kuchara Foundation. Good morning, county commissioners and all in attendance. I live at 187 Valley Vista in La Vita, but it's technically Kuchara. So, the way I understand it from reading the original deed, and again, I am not a lawyer, so I'm not going to supersede Ken there, but the way the original deed reads when it was deeded to the county from the Kuchara Foundation is that we do have input on what goes on, and that's the consult that came from the lawyers. Not to mention, like, when you look at the original deed, there's really not stipulations the county is giving back on us. Like the original proposal that goes back to January, the only one of relevance is that it remains a public park when we take it back. And that's coordinated with GOCO. But like the idea of saying, hey, if we don't pay taxes, those kind of things, like it reverts back to the county, like nonprofits don't pay taxes anyway. So there's things in there that there's really no stipulations coming back on us. And when you go back and read the minutes from the January meeting, it specifically says the motion to proceed forward with transfer was passed. And then the next meeting, it says, again, we acknowledge the stipulations and motion was passed to transfer by 1 May, which were 21 days from. So our stance is that this was to move forward and that we are in the discussion. Over.
So commissioners, I'm going to recommend you take no action and go with your attorney before any further action is taken on this.
I do have one question. Can you please elaborate why Panadero Ski Corp and the Kuchara Foundation would think it would be a bad decision to turn this into a state park?
Well, I'm going to speak as a neighbor of Kuchara Mountain Park, and we really don't want the traffic up there. We're a sleepy little ski area. We throw a couple concerts a year. We want to be a year-round destination for, people, but I don't see the state taking any considerations of our community into consideration when developing a park.
Thank you.
I would be curious on my end. I agree with King Clayton. I would also be curious why is it beneficial to not only the Valley and your district, Erica, but why is it beneficial to the county? Like we already have Bear Lake, we already have Blue Lake, North Lake's been turned into a state wildlife area that now requires stuff. Like what's the benefit to the county? And who have you guys talked to and what's the money amount being thrown that would benefit Huerfano County in all of this if it was done?
I have never known a state park to not bring economic development and tourism. Still researching it, don't have answers to the other questions, but we will certainly consult with our attorneys and get back to you.
So to be clear, the fact that Bear Lake and Blue Lake, as the crow flies, is about 2 miles from where Kuchara Mountain Park sits, we see an additional substantive income coming in by revenue from that. And is it, if you're buying it from, or if the state's buying it from us, is it really staying public? Because then everybody local in Huerfano County, which still remains one of the poorest in the state, would then have to have state park passes and everything to enter it. So it defeats the entire purpose of when it was deeded that way, unless I'm mistaken there.
So if I may,
Is that a question to me or?
I mean, you are our district rep. are you not, for the county? Are you a representative? So yeah, I'll put the question to you, Erica.
I sure am, but I was not your representative when the park was transferred over to the county. So I think that's a question for Max Vazani, and I'm happy to chat with him about it.
So it seems like there's a whole lot of misunderstanding about the state role here. So let me clarify what I know. I know that state officials have told us that they have interest, personally. I don't know if the state, as calling Park and Wildlife, as the governor's office, or anything like that, any sort of official way has said they are interested. We understand that there's interest from state officials, but we haven't gotten confirmation like a letter of interest or an offer or anything like that. There's no money on the table, nothing of that nature. All we have is a statement that there's interest, and that this does seem to fit the bill for what the governor has asked for as far as expanding state parks. But my understanding here is that if we were to sell it to the state, which the state has money to buy it, so why wouldn't we sell it to them? Then we would need conservation to approve of that, and we would also need to pay conservation part of that money. So
150,000.
or more. So I don't know that it's worth really discussing the state in depth now. We know that there is an interest. We don't know how high it goes. We haven't done any sort of official correspondence yet.
And again, from Panadero's point, we're now in limbo again. We had a very successful season, but we need a commitment to keep going. I mean, we can't keep asking people for money. We can't spend the grant money in the time frame, or all of it in the time frame that we're given. And so we're kind of approaching this with our hands tied. We want to be the operators up there. I will tell you that we would prefer to work for the Kuchara Foundation. We see an easier path forward. I'm not asking for an answer today, like with the MOU. We're willing and able to work with Carl to come to an agreement on that. But without a longer term, I mean, our hands are tied as to progress up there. We'll be running the ski bus again, indefinitely, and that's not our goal. I mean, we've proved this year that it has to be run by a nonprofit. We broke even. We made some money, but had that been operating, it would have been a different story.
So at the moment, I think there's only one operator that can be considered. We did that process. We had two that were interested, but that process was ended. So at the moment, there's PSC or there's nothing. And I don't think nothing is a viable option. I am worried about what feels to me, and I don't think it's intended to be, but what feels to me as a threat to take the park bothers me deeply. But I don't know that that really impacts our ability to enter into this MOU with PSC. But I do think that it is now urgent that the commissioners talk to their attorney about this.
We agree, and I'm not trying to threaten. This is a document that I've been asking my former neighbor for months, and she gave me the runaround, and we all never mind. And I finally got it, shared it with the PSC. Half of the CF members had not seen this document, so this we think it's a different story. By all means, this is not a threat. I just think this is information that we all need to consider. We've had two legal opinions say one thing. One of which is the attorney that you guys hired for contract work now. So, we have to take that as if they're good enough to work for you. We have to say they probably did a good job giving us opinion on this.
And so when we hired this attorney, we also asked the question, since they worked for the Kuchara Foundation, if there was a conflict, what would they do? And so if this moves towards a conflict, then neither of us get to have this attorney.
Yeah, and we understand that. We expected that would be the answer with them. It's just they gave the Kuchara Foundation opinion. So I think that needs to be taken into consideration.
Okay, and so I'm going to agree with our administrator that the two votes that were taken were to prepare the restrictions for any kind of a deed transfer and to prepare for a deed transfer. There was never a vote to transfer the deed.
Okay.
So So the commissioners, even though, you know how I feel,
I appreciate that.
but I'm only one.
And that's what we agree. It needs to go to the attorneys. Someone needs to look at this and tell us where everyone stands.
Okay. But in the meantime, from my perspective again, so I'm out of office at the end of the year. I don't see a reason to not do a longer term agreement instead of just a 1-year agreement. That's my opinion. But
If it
that's-
transfers to the state, it transfers to the state, and hopefully that agreement will transfer with it. But we can't, I can't go ask for money. We can't go spend the state money, not knowing what our future is.
So I'm going to ask the opinion of the other commissioners. We may not be a 10-year, but a 5-year, I think, would be a doable with automatic renewals or something.
If,
You know,
I think that, so I'm trying to think about this in two ways. One, the event of the transfer doesn't really matter, so I'm discounting that way a little bit and saying, good, so what if the board decides to keep it for whatever reason? In that case, and this is sort of my general take on things, as much as there might be other people that are interested in operating it, I don't think that there is, I think that the community investment that PSC has made is worth a long-term agreement. And it's worth working with them in the long term to get this park to where the community wants it to be. It's a tried and true model. We have it for the Fox, we have it for the Fairgrounds. It works. We know how to work it. So I would say a 5 to 10 year or a 5 initial. I think the Fox was 7 initial, so we already agreed for 2 years. A 5 initial within a 40 makes sense, or some other long term after a substantial trial period. I think the Fox didn't get to 7 before the commission at the time gave them the 40 year whatever lease. So it's hard for me to say that this isn't working, which is part of my confusion about the transfer, but that's, another set of issues.
Mr. Sporty, thoughts?
Problem with that, I agree with a year could be a difficulty, so I have no problem with extending that trial period. I just think we do need to do more, some more fact finding just to verify some of the things. So I'd almost say let's table this for a little bit more time to verify what a time period might be acceptable, and to answer some other questions that may come up in that discussion.
So here's where the problem I see on that. We're not going to have a meeting on the 23rd.
I have no idea for that.
Okay.
So the current agreement that we're currently as far as May 1st
Right.
provides that the parties can agree to extend this agreement at any time. Doesn't necessarily specify the venue. I think if we exchange letters, that should be sufficient to extend it for another month, then to get into a new agreement. I do think we need to do the new agreement because the new agreement removes a bunch of restrictions that the county put on PSC last fall. I think we've all discussed and we're all fine with the we've all discussed previously, so.
That works for us.
Commissioner Andrietta, you have thoughts?
I do. I had originally talked to Mr. Young about extending this further than a year. I think it is very challenging going year by year for them to not only collect funds, but spend those funds. So I am in favor of an annual renewal up to 5 years with the stipulation that if it were to switch hands, whether that's to Kachara Foundation or to the state for a state park or whatever that looks like, that agreement could be terminated based on what the end user is wanting to do with the park. However, I now have great pause of the path moving forward. I don't agree that the votes that were taken are interpreted the way that they're stating it was interpreted. I don't like the thought of getting into a legal battle between a nonprofit and a government that's supposed to be working together. And I am totally against a board that is making decisions based on the fact that they are neighbors to the park rather than what's good for a community as a whole. And so my intuition and fears were just validated with the comment. So that is something I would like to talk to the commissioners about, as well as our legal counsel. I'm a bit concerned, as I was before, and now those concerns are validated.
Okay, so would you be okay with a 1 month extension of the current agreement to give us an opportunity to maybe work out something going forward?
Absolutely.
Okay, so May 1st, I mean, we'll, like you said, we'll do some letters back and forth to agree to a 1 month extension.
As we figure it out going forward.
And see if we can have something before the 1st of June.
Sounds good.
So can I get a motion for that 1 month extension?
Can I have one more question before we do the extension? If I may, if you could just do a quick envision of what you want that park to be, if you had like a extremely long term.
PSC and Kuchar Foundation together envisioned almost identical to what the SC group proposed in their master planning for that. We want a year-round activities hub, not like everyone worries about Aspen Vale or Disneyland, but we envision a summer concert series once a week up on the mountain. People go down to Chris and Donna's Mercantile for dinner, come up and hear music with us. We envision a couple bigger concerts, similar but not quite as large as what used to be done at the airport and previously at the mountain. We envision year or ski season from right before Christmas till the spring every year. We got enough snowmaking in last year, and with what we plan to put in this year, we see that as a realistic goal of having people, because we had during spring break this year, we had families from all over the state and every bordering state up there coming just to ski. People who have second homes up there that never come up in the winter. People from Trinidad, New Mexico, who didn't want to go down to Red River coming up and skiing with us. We had families that have places in Breckenridge that didn't want to spend $280 a day to ski for 5 people times 280, and they came to ski for us for $40 a piece. So we envision year-round activity up there. Mountain biking, we already have some trails in there. We want to capitalize on some of the things that were donated to us from Colorado Mountain College last year, and we just didn't have time to install them this year, which is a magic carpet. It gives us the opportunity to offer what the SC group suggested as a big revenue generator, sledding, tubing on that beginner hill. It also gives us an opportunity to offer beginner skiing and possibly beginner skiing lessons on that beginner hill. So we don't want Disneyland, we don't want Vail, we don't want Aspen, nor do we ever think that could happen here. We want to keep running it as a community asset, and not only for Kuchar, but for the surrounding community. I mean, that includes the Front Range. We had people coming down this year from Denver and the Front Range who didn't want to drive up I-70 because of the hassle. So we want to continue to offer top-notch beginner and intermediate skiing, snowboarding, expanding. I received an email from Commissioner Andrietta as I walked in here about a rental shop in Monarch, getting rid of a rental fleet. Thank you for that email. We plan to call them and be able to offer more to get more people down here. Is that any other, you want anything more specific than that?
Oh, that's a good overview. Thank you.
I'd like to chime in from the Kuchar Foundation if possible.
Yes, go ahead.
Yep. So it's Chair Beasley again. I just want to second everything Ken said. I think the biggest thing on our end looking at it is the original involvement with the Kachara Foundation was to bring something in for the community. And the reason it was given to the county is to manage it by the community. And that's what our big picture of it is. And by it going to the state, we lose that. So I apologize if there was some confusion there earlier. I agree with a lot of the stuff Carl said. I think moving to a long-term use agreement with the PSC is great. By all means, it's the county administrator's position as of this point, the way that it's said, to determine that as the controller of the park. The one thing I will say is, I'm sorry that Erica feels the way she does, but I would caveat that no communication has occurred to us from the board. And by us, I mean the Kachara Foundation. So in the way the deed was granted and in the way it was done, nobody's approached us saying, hey, state officials have come forward. This might be something to do, etc. So the good faith communication does go both ways there, Erica. I'm just bringing that up.
So if,
The conversation took place last week. It hasn't even been finalized, and I would appreciated your communication once you heard it, rather than going to state representatives and jumping the gun. This is very preliminary. It was last week, at the end of last week, that we discussed this with one state official. So absolutely, when we have more to discuss, I haven't even had a chance to talk to the commissioners yet because today is our first meeting. So we are always upfront, honest, and ready to and willing to communicate. However, it sounds like you jumped the gun and made some pretty detrimental communications to state representatives, which I don't appreciate either.
I'm sorry. To be clear, who did I talk to at the state? Because I haven't necessarily spoken to anyone.
Okay.
Mr. Clayton.
Well, I'm not Mr. Clayton. That's one. So I just want to be clear on that before I just put that I did something that I did not do.
Let's
And then-
not be adversarial. Okay, let's just move
Okay,
forward.
no problem. But to be accused, I just want to be clear.
Okay. So, we've got everything. I think we need to make some kind of a motion at this point.
Before you make your decisions, may I address?
That's up to that.
Please. Yes.
Jim Littlefield, 58 Cedar Ridge, Kachara. I'm just here as a citizen. I am a reasonably close neighbor to that park. Take an interest in it. And that's how I'm addressing you, Commissioner. I've been to every one of these meetings I've learned of, some of them at the last minute, I might add. And I'm asking you, what is going on here? I find it very troubling that here we are 6-8 weeks later. You can hide behind the lawyers and the comments and a commissioner that's acting as an obstructionist in this process and seldom here to look us in the eye. And it was all about giving 50 acres back to an organization that cares about furthering all the good things we spent the $50,000 with SE Group to do for this community. But no. Commissioner Belushi, you said in one of those meetings, we really have no business running that park. Did you not?
That's correct.
And then further, when we were talking about how long it would take, and the commissioner that's missing said, well, we've got to study this, we've got to do this, and this is a horrible, horrible, horrible decision. You said, I really think we can get this done in a week, 2 weeks at the most. Am I correct?
That sounds pretty close.
Yeah. Here we are, not weeks, but months later in this. I mean, these people are expressing frustration for a reason. They're in the trenches. If you're reading your local paper, you've seen the pictures. Free day for the kids of Huerfano County a couple of weeks ago on Friday. It was wonderfully attended. Vita Bus brought them up there. It was great. Nobody got hurt. Everybody had a wonderful time. That's what this is all about, trying to do those good things. You put your foot on the neck of the workers last fall when you put the cease and desist in. And as you know, I vehemently disagree with how you did it and why you did it. And it's still in effect. People like Mr. Chapman right there and good old Jeremy worked tirelessly with Mike Williams through the Thanksgiving holidays, worked till 11 o'clock Thanksgiving Day trying to get snowmaking pipe buried because we put a cease and desist on them. We came in here and begged, and just before Thanksgiving, you said, okay, you can do the other things, just can't work on the lift. So we finally we lost the good weather. We're trying to get it done before ground freezes and snow counts so that we could be open, because you can't do it without making snow, especially at the base. And they've done a great job with that all winter. And again, Jeremy back there and some help from Mike worked most nights all through the night and then drove the ski bus during the day because they both know how to operate a tractor and pull that thing up there. So to me, as we sit here, I'm detecting sub rosa, sour grapes about all this and everything that can be done to delay this, maybe all the way to when there's the next election. And you won't be there, John, to drive this and say, hey, we voted. And Carl supported it 2-1 twice. You can nitpick about whether it was for language, whether it was to work on an agreement. You aren't communicating with these folks. You just aren't. You're not communicating with them. It could be done may I finish? If you would communicate with these people, come in and sit down as adults and work on it. And then when you've got the language as best you can do, pass it to an attorney and say, does this pass the clean smell test? That's how businesses handle it. They don't waffle and hide behind things. This is what you're doing here. It's very apparent to me. And I think you should be ashamed of yourselves for that. Now, I mentioned getting the foot off the neck. We're coming into good weather. If we're going to have a lift operating next year, they've got the engineering plans. They got 17,000 in the treasury. If we could be allowed to get back to work on that lift and straighten that out, and then get into a position to get approval from the tram board, we'd be well on our way. I don't think we can do that under the county. We can do that under the Kachar Foundation, and our donors will come running. As Mr. Clayton said, they've pulsed the donors. They're still solidly behind this. That's how we've gotten this done. And the day-to-day work that goes on up in that park, whether it's cleaning the toilets or anything else, Panadero Ski Corp's been doing. Ever since you got rid of whatever his name was from Houston that was here, they've been doing all of that work, even the media stuff. Some of us cut the grass for the disc golf. It's year round. We're trying to make it so everybody can enjoy it. Trees fall in the fern glade. We go cut those. Jeremy stacks that up. It's the firewood they burn in the day lodge in the winter. It's all good. This is obstruction. Let us get on with the good things the county needs. And we're going to do it in the spirit of the SE agreement, right down to the letter of the law.
So may I?
You may.
So you're absolutely right. When I made the statement that I am tired of the way that this is working. Huerfano County has no idea how to run a ski lift, right? Commissioner Andrea, and I agree with her, said being tired of something is no reason to make a decision about it. So what I offered is come up with a way to take the county out of the responsibility and the liability associated with that. And one of the things that the attorneys are looking at is, can we deed the lift to Panadero Ski Corp? Give it to them. That's one of the things that we're looking at. So it's the ultimate goal is not just to get rid of the park for the county. The ultimate goal is to get rid of the liability and the responsibility of the lift, from my perspective. So call it waffling, call it whatever you want. Whether we get this, whether we transfer the ownership of this to Panadero Ski Corp or not, I don't care, as long as we, the county, get rid of the liability and the responsibility for that lift. So one of the options is to deed that to Panadero Ski Corp. Whether that's the best way to go or not, I can't tell you. But I am frustrated with how long this has taken and the different directions that we have seen, because the options, different ideas come forward. So yeah, it is frustrating.
It is.
And hopefully we will have something moving forward by the 1st of June so that we are out of this position.
So what I think I'm hearing is you're now working on a couple of fronts. One is somebody has either reached out to the state or miraculously they found a little 50-acre park. That's one front. And then another front is what you've just framed. You would like to devolve the lift itself out of it. So no liability associated with the lift. Everything else would stay with the county. Am I understanding that correctly?
That's an option, yes.
Well, I would say, having been a regular participant in the park since day one, I see no presence of the county there. I see all these other things we're talking about. Nobody else cuts the trees, nobody else mows the grass, nobody else cleans the day lodge, nobody cleans the toilets. What's the county going to do with that in reality? And make it what it can be and what SE Group suggested. And the sessions we had across the county on that, I would suggest to you, you're kidding yourselves. Let's get on with this, get it done, allow us to get busy on this work while the weather's good. Working on it in the winter is no fun. And I know you don't want this on your plate. You got bigger fish to fry, I would think. That's my piece. And remember, there's a headline in the paper right after the meeting. No county official took it on. County gives park back to the Guitar Foundation. That's what it said, front page.
The newspapers can print whatever they want. We all know that.
But you don't let it lie if you disagree with it. We certainly didn't have that impression. Anyway, that's all I want to say about it. Let's stop dawdling, get on with this.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I just want to be clear here. On March 12th, 4:32 p.m., I emailed Chris Smith telling him that at the last BOCC meeting, reminding him, because he was here, you were here, Mr. Clayton, I think you were here as well. The commissioners referred this to the I informed him that we had done so, and the attorney asked us if to check with the Guitar Foundation to see if they have any concerns about the attorney working on this, as he had a relationship with Guitar Foundation previously. I never got a response to that email, so I'm assuming they're fine with that. Mr. Clayton and I exchanged emails on Easter. When something has come up that's worth talking about, we have talked about it. I don't have a bowl to give you on what the attorney has said, because I haven't done anything for the attorney yet. If we do get something from the attorney, we're going to make it public. There's no point in hiding anything. It's not worth it. I also want to say, you are correct. You don't see the county up there. I don't micromanage people. We as a county don't micromanage the people who are doing work for us, working on these facilities. Last fall, there was an incident that admittedly, there was a miscommunication there, where the report that we got from PSC contradicted what PSC told us. We worked through it. It was a bit of a mess, more than a bit. And since then, cool heads have prevailed. Getting rid of the park, keeping the park, whatever. But the notion that the county is just sitting on things, because rather this sets a precedent. It's an important one for economic development. Can the county give something away without a competitive process, without a stated benefit to the county? Because if we start doing that, that makes your job on economic development a whole lot harder. So asking the question, nothing wrong with asking the question. Am I a little bit annoyed that's taking this long? I am a little bit annoyed taking this long. But again, I can only control what I can control. I don't control other people's time, how they speak. So, no, you have not seen the county been flushing toilets, cleaning toilets, mowing the grass, because you have agreement with PSC to do that work. That is how these things work. I don't go over to the Fox unless they call us. With PSC, when they called us, they wanted the road plow. We got the road plow. They called us, they needed to borrow a piece of equipment. We got a piece of equipment. That's called working together. Not us micromanaging them, telling them what they have to do here, here, and here. But if there's an issue and there's miscommunication, we have to talk about it, we have to evaluate it. And at some point, yes, we got advice that said we should halt everything. And that a state body was going to come down on this county and fine us some untold amount. So the commissioners reacted to that. We all reacted to that. You know, if you begrudge us that we reacted to that, and therefore we are the ultimate evil, fine. But any notion that we just had, that we're just out here just trying to make your guys' lives hard for no reason, it's false, it is disrespectful, it is unnecessary.
I stand by my comments, disrespectful or not.
I respect that.
Well, if I may,
Yes.
also, I would like to say that just because it was in the paper, that doesn't make it right. Because I spent days after that fielding calls from people up in the community and I was saying, that is not what I agreed to in the paper. That was not what we had said and what we had voted on and what the intention was. So I don't care if it's in paper or not, it wasn't correct. The biggest deal in my mind also is that the liability and making sure that we don't operate something or get into an agreement that is going to sacrifice our ability to get grants and loans and things in the future and to be still liable of things. And I'm sorry, government takes a little time to go through all those different stages, but it is what it is. It's not like we're trying to do something incorrect, but we have a fiduciary interest to be able to make sure all of our county isn't going to have to pay for something in a liability case or something of that nature. We have a fiduciary interest to everybody in the county, not just the people that are interested up in Cachera. So that takes time. Sometimes a heck of a lot more than we want, for sure.
Okay, I'm gonna let you have this comment and then close it down. So please come up to the microphone, state your name and address.
Kevin Chapman, I'm from actually Custer County. I've been volunteering for over 3 years, putting that charities back together. My history, I worked for Pikes Peak Ski, I worked for Sunlight Ski, I worked for Aspen Highlands. I worked on rivet chairlifts as my main job. I was a lift supervisor. I worked year round on all maintenance on them, including all maintenance on the mountain. My problem is you guys do not understand the ski industry. I'm sorry, Clayton doesn't even understand everything. Everything that we do is 6 months in advance. So when we're working summer, we're planning what we have to do for the winter. During the winter, we're trying to gather everything we need to do during the summer when we have the available time and weather. The problem is with you guys delaying another month, you now are stopping us from being able to repair the chair, be able to do a load test, and then get it certified. The problem is we're competing with every other ski area. And part of it in the United States, and part of it is just in our state to one, get the rope inspections done and all the inspections that we have to do that are certified to make that lift safe for the public. And we're also competing to get the state tram board to come down. Yes, we had an incident, no different than if you wreck a car. We went ahead, we got the engineer came in, told us what we needed to do to repair it. We had all the material already bought, purchased, waiting on you to give us the go-ahead to allow us to work on that. But by you guys delaying another month, you're now pushing us back further and further, or we're not sure whether the state tram board will be able to schedule us in to do both a load test as well as the final state inspection. They're the ones who certify whether that lift is safe for the public. The county doesn't do that. That's why we reached out to the tram board when we had the incident. And things happen when you work on heavy equipment. That's just part of the game. We rigged it the exact same way that it was rigged the previous time when the previous counter rope was replaced. And this time, a couple bolts stretched and then the wells filled. It's just part of life. So I'm asking, before you make your decision, or you're talking a month, we need something longer so we can get going and start working on the lift now and get it so we can start getting prepared for those tests and for those inspections. By you delaying us, you're basically telling us it'll be another year before we'll be able to run the lift.
Okay, thank you so much.
So if we can get together sometime this week, exchange edits.
Yeah, if we could work on 2A or 2C and get that incorporated into this month extension as we work toward the long term, that would give us the ability to immediately go back to work on that.
Yeah, I mean, the month is just, you guys.
So we don't have to pull our equipment off.
Right.
We get that.
But this is just you and me going back and forth here. This shouldn't take very long.
We could do that in a day.
Yeah.
We'll get it to where Carl and I will work together to get this to where we can go back to work on the lift as we work towards the long-term agreement. Does that work for everyone?
Yeah.
So for you,
Yep.
Commissioner Andrietta?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. As I say before, I'm all for a month extension. I'm for a year extension. I'm for a yearly extension up to 5 years, as long as it doesn't jeopardize the future of the transfer of this park, whether it's transfer via lease, transfer via sale. So I would be for that. I understand the importance of having a long-term agreement. Again, so you can collect funds, spend funds, and get this operational for our community. I think the commissioners are in line, as well as the two entities, Cacharo Mountain Park and the Panadero Ski Corp. I'm sorry, the Cacharo Foundation, that we want this to move forward, especially with skiing. But I will add to that, I just want to make sure it's to the benefit of the community as a whole.
Okay. So would a motion that extends the agreement for 1 month while you work out the details for a longer term and removes the no work restriction be adequate?
Yes, and if you guys give me some leeway on the wording there, I can work to make sure that we get the right things in there so they can proceed with the work.
Yeah, I agree with that. And make that motion.
Second.
You get that, Erica?
I did.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call for the vote, please.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Chairman Lucia?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Did you have something, Dale?
I know it's probably, where do they get water to make snow? I'm sorry, I don't know anything about this. I'm sorry, I've been in naive.
The water comes from Cacharo Water and Sand.
Excuse me?
Cacharo Water and Sand.
And,
It's more complicated than that. That's the simple answer.
okay.
We have an agreement to
That was
purchase
all.
X amount of cubic yards every year.
Is everybody screaming for water? Just wondering where we're using it.
That's 1973 for exclusively selling.
That's good for you guys.
Thank you,
Okay.
commissioners. Thank you, Carl.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience. Thank you all for staying civil. Appreciate that. Approval of the FY25 court security cash grant.
Absolutely. Commissioners, what happened here was a request to approve to submit an FY25 court security cash grant in the amount of $73,255.42. If successful, these funds will be used to fund the following. 1, the salary benefits of 1 full-time court security guard. 2, the salary benefits of a designated backup court security guard, budgeted 500 hours per year. 3, uniforms and equipment for both positions. And 4, a replacement chair for the court security station. This grant does not have a set amount. The amount listed above is the full cost of providing court security services. This is a grant that we apply to annually that helps the county fund the court security position and needs. The sheriff's office has requested we include funds for part-time backup guard because the SO has been short-handed of deputies and attention officers. On page 76.
Did you? Were you gonna say something?
Anything, yeah, I'm just gonna sit here. Questions, comments, motion?
Uh, Make a motion to approve the application for the FY 25 court security cash fund grant in the amount of 73,355.
Second. Oh, sorry.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call for the vote, please.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier,
Yes.
Chairman Boucher,
Yes.
motion passes. Commissioners just have a request to apply for a simple accessibility compliance grant to receive access to the common look software through Alliant slash SIPA at no cost to the county through April 2025. This grant will allow us, the software that we will receive access to through this grant would allow us to comply with new technology accessibility standards created by Carlos, the legislature, and the governor's IT office.
I would make a motion to approve staff to apply for the SIPA Accessibility Compliance Grant to receive access to Common Lock software through the Alliance SIPA at no cost to the county through April 2025 for the purpose of complying with the new technology accessible standards created by the Colorado state legislators.
Second that.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. Call for the vote, please.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier,
Yes.
Chairman Boucher,
Yes.
motion passes. Commissioners, next let me do the background on this first. The Huerfano County Parks and Rec District has agreed to apply for a Colorado Parks and Wildlife Regional Partnership Initiatives grant that would fund the formalization of an outdoor recreation coalition represented by community stakeholders. This coalition would engage with Los Angeles County as part of the new Spanish Peace Regional Partnership to the benefit of Huerfano County, as well as represent outdoor recreation interests locally. The RPI grant will require a 10% match on a grant up to $100,000 in value, and the HPOD is asking the county to support on the grant match if awarded. Just so you know where we're at with this grant, the Huerfano County Parks and Rec District has submitted a letter of intent. I think in the next week or so, they should get a response whether they're approved to apply. The application is due once at the end of the month. So if you approve this request for $10,000, at least preliminary approve it, the funds wouldn't actually leave the county until later this year, possibly early next, depending on what the timeline is for awarded contract date.
So why would the Parks and Rec District not fund this themselves?
So the Parks and Rec District receives half of the city, county, and towns conservation trust fund dollars, and they don't. I'm not aware of any other particular income streams they have besides that fund, those monies. So they don't have cash that can be used for any purpose, and CTF funds can't be used for this purpose.
So they do have another fund. And it's funds that came back to them for their assistance with other projects. So they have the funds to fund this. So I personally would be reluctant to give them $10,000 for this project.
I don't disagree with you, John. I'm trying to remember. We had a meeting with Michelle Georgia Pell with the Parks and Rec Board, and I'm trying to remember what their budget item was, but it escapes me at the moment. So Is there a way we can research that? And in the event they don't have the money to fund this, we can bring it back to the table?
We can do that. I mean, there's an issue of meeting timing here, but, we can
Or
do
would
that.
it be better to make a motion contingent on the proof that they don't have the money in their budget to afford this?
That might be more advantageous from the timing perspective,
Okay.
or to say that, to make a motion that, the county is willing to contribute, but not exactly committing the money.
Yeah.
So that you don't actually have to spend the money. And certainly I expect that also some of this money could be raised,
Sure.
by other nonprofit partners, that are engaged in the, recreational partnership, or at least the conceptual phase of it.
Okay.
I would ask the commissioners to consider that the county's support be limited to half of the required match.
Okay. So 50% of the 10%.
Yes.
That's usually our,
I would make a motion to approve in principle to provide a up to 50% of the 10% match, not to exceed that amount of 10,000 at 50%, which would be 5,000 from American Rescue Parks and Recreation Funding, pending the successful award of the RPI grants to HPRD, because the goal of this coalition are in line with the county's desire to improve public health and quality of life. I'd like to add that the administrator look into the financials of the Parks and Rec District and evaluate whether or not they are able to provide this match themselves or not, or fundraise for the match prior to dispersing the funds.
I would second that.
Have a motion and a second. You good with that, Erica?
Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion? Call for the vote, please.
Commissioner Andrew,
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier,
Yes.
Chairman Bush,
Yes.
motion passes. All right, Commissioners, next I have for you a request to award resolution number 2024-1, the on-call planning RFP. Last meeting, you approved Urban Atelier for on-call planning services, and we held back on approving Safe Built for floodplain management. This is the other half of that, now that we have the contract from Safe Built. The hourly cost is $175 per hour for floodplain management, and $173 for a mid-level engineer doing floodplain management. The nature of floodplain management stuff is that the county does not get a ton of them, at least not at the moment. If there was, say, a fire, things like that, it would perk in the amount of stuff we need floodplain management for. But at the moment, we haven't gotten a lot of these applications recently, or questions for floodplain manager. But when they happen, they're usually somewhat urgent or involved in a fairly decent sized capital project. So it's good to have it on hand, but it's not an expense that I expect to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on it. It's going to be fairly low dollar.
Page 126.
Mhm.
Just went down to symbol size.
Yeah.
Make a motion to approve the award for the on-call planner to Safe Built to the floodplain management.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Call for the vote, please.
Commissioner Andrew,
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier,
Yes.
Chairman Bush,
Yes.
Motion passes. Commissioners, next I have for you the agreement. And if you're looking for the fee schedule,
Page 139.
page 137.
Oh, yeah.
I would make a motion to approve the professional service agreement between Huerfano County, Colorado and Safe Built Colorado LLC. Scroll down for the amount
There's not an amount, it's an hourly.
or term, no date, no nothing to verify the document. I guess not. That would be the motion
It's a 12-month term.
for a term expiring in 12 months.
Is there a ability to have a high-end limitation on that? How many hours?
We can, what I'm thinking about right now is say 20 hours. I feel like that's more than enough. And it's not a big enough amount where if anything bigger than that, I'd probably want to bring it back to you. Like if there's a major project, I'd probably bring that back to you as a one-off anyway. So I'm thinking 20 hours, which is $3,160.
Yeah, I'd second that motion with a limitation of 20 hours until have to bring it back to us for further improvement.
So I have a motion. I have a motion and a second. Let me just say that we have in the past gone maybe 3 years without a floodplain project. So there's no guarantee that we'll have one. This could be moot, but with the 20-hour max, I think that's pretty safe. Call for the vote, please.
Commissioner Joe?
Are we amending the motion?
Oh, yeah, we're carded at that 20.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, too.
You're right.
Do you accept that amendment?
I absolutely would. Thank you for the suggestion.
So we're going to vote.
Yeah.
Commissioner Joe?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
Yes.
Chairman Lucia?
Yes.
Motion passes. All right, Commissioners, next I have for you, I'm on page 139, purchase order number 237 for B&G Construction in the amount of $9,500. This is a not to exceed amount. So this is for the vault toilet at the Raymond Area Community Center in Gardner. We currently have 3 options for how to resolve the issue of the vault toilet not having settled completely. One is we can lift it up and reset it right where it is. That option costs $7,500. Option 2, we could relocate it to another location. Option 3, we could sort of build up around the toilet and leave it sort of where it is now. We still have the community center board later this month, where we hope to get a final decision from them because I'm setting staff up to basically, we want to try to address this before more. So in order to get permission to pay out now, based on whatever the recognition of the Raymond Area Community Center Board is, and our hope is that we can schedule the work to be done as soon as possible in May.
So you're asking for authority to spend up to $9,500.
That is correct.
I make that motion.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. Call for the vote, please.
Commissioner Joe?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
Yes.
Chairman Lucia?
Yes.
Motion passes. Commissioner, next I have an interdepartmental lease agreement between Huerfano County Road and Bridge and the Huerfano County Sheriff's Office. This is for the lease of the prisoner transport vehicle that was approved last week. This agreement is necessary for the state to reimburse us for the purchase price of that vehicle, which is $58,707.
What page is that final one?
It starts on 143, ends on 145.
I make that motion. For the lease agreement.
Second,
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call for the vote, please.
Commissioner Godu?
yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
Yes.
Chairman Blucher?
Yes.
Motion passed. Commissioners, last action I have for you is a report back from the workshop we had last week, after our last meeting, with McKinstry regarding the law enforcement center at HVAC. Attached, you're going to find 3 options for system. As you recall, the large portion of the work is converting some portion of the current evaporative cooling to a direct cooling system. So going from a swamp cooler to air conditioning. This work is needed because of past critical failures of the cooling system, as well as consistent difficulty with maintenance. These options 5, 6, and 7 were requested by the county during that workshop on March 26th. Option 5 is a full retro commissioning and testing and balancing, as well as replacing the 3 current evaporative systems with AAON direct cooling coils. Option 6 is the same thing, except for it would use Carrier direct cooling coils. And the last option is the recommissioning, testing, and balancing, and the rehabilitation of AHU 2 and AHU 3, which covers the jail and BOCC. So there are a number of the costs listed out on the page here. My recommendation is to proceed with option 7 now to ensure the building is maximally habitable, which would use the remaining contingency that we have from our energy performance contracting project. And if successful with the DOLA grant that we submitted on April 1st, we could then proceed with option 5, which, while costing more, is expected to have lower maintenance needs and lower operational costs of life.
I make that motion for the number 5 of the full testing and balancing, full retro commissioning, replacement of the current evaporative systems.
Second,
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. So let me correct me if I'm wrong, but we would be better off accepting number 7 right now and not accepting number 5 until we know the results of the grant that we submitted to DOLA. So I would respectfully ask consideration to withdraw that motion and make a motion for number 7 at this point.
Okay, I'd withdraw that motion and thank you for clarifying that for me.
You accept that?
yes.
Okay, so is that,
So make a motion for the number 7. Is that
yeah.
the rehabilitation of the AHU-2 and the AHU-3?
Okay. Is that a second?
Yes.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Call for the vote, please.
Commissioner Godu?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier,
Yes.
Chairman Blucher.
Yes.
Motion passes. That is the end of action items.
Correspondence, Mr. Young?
All right, first I have for you your CTSI reports for March 2024. I have your bulk water volume by customer report, your GPID water and sewer billing register, your system totals report for GPID for March 2024, your field report from Horn Architects for the courthouse masonry project. Next is the comp time value report. Remember in our handbook we passed in the last year, we're going to give you this report quarterly, which shows not just how much comp time is available, but what is the value of that comp time. Then there's the leave balances report, which shows the various types of leave and what those balances are for each employee. Next, I have a technical update for CTSI on cybersecurity controls, part 1. Then I have for you a letter from San Isabel Electric committing to give the county $2,000 for the fireworks show this July. And last but not least, I have for you a flyer from the Los Animas Huerfano County's District Health Department for a community survey for the 5-year public health improvement plan that we request people to do by April 15th.
Yeah, just want to try to get that out to as many people as possible.
Can we put that on our social media platform?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nothing else to correspondence?
Commissioners, so the correspondence we moved to
Staff.
report. So the staff was submitted in writing. The main things I want to highlight are we are, of course, back again with Mr. Solano as he's filed a petition for a writ of certiorari. I pronounced that word correctly. So we will hear, so our attorneys are going to file response on before April 18th. Solano has 7 days to file a reply brief. And then we wait for 4 to 8 months for a response. Our attorneys are very confident that this will not be granted. We'll see what happens. Land use is continuing to monitor the Spanish speaks in and doing everything we can to move that project forward as soon as possible to get that thing done. The asbestos remediation has been the big holdup there. But my understanding is that CDPHE and the company doing the work had a meeting last week, and they're trying to figure out how they're going to approach it, which we should hopefully hear back from them later this week, early next. And I have an idea of how long it will take to complete the project. We'll have a firmer idea. Other than that, you guys have any questions for me?
I have none. And we have a need for executive session for 2 purposes.
That is correct.
So one for discussion of personnel matter under CRS 246402-2F and not involving a specific employee who have requested discussion in the matter of open session, any member of a body of elected officials, the appointment of any person to fill an office of this body of an elected official, or personnel policies that do not require the discussion of matters personnel to particular employees. This is emergency management staffing discussion. And the second one is to discuss the purchase, acquisition, lease, transfer, or sale of real property or other property under CRS 246402-4A, the Thorn Ranch sale pending. So I would entertain a motion for an executive session.
Make that motion.
Second.
A motion, a second, discussion. There will be no decisions made during or after the executive session. Call for the vote, please.
Commissioner Angetta?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
Yes.
Chairman Lucia?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. I'm going to recess the regular meeting, and we're going to take 5 minutes before we do executive session.
Yes, please.